Hello, it's me, Diorama again, and I'm here with another tutorial. This time it's for a target block game where the targets pop up and you have to shoot them back down. It's called the pop-up target game because I haven't thought of anything better. Deal with it. First, we're going to have a quick look at how it works in case you didn't see the original concept video. And then we're going to jump into a fly-through of the redstone, a block by block, and a couple of variations. You can find timestamps for all these different sections in the description below, so you can find exactly what you're looking for. Let's have a look at the game first of all. This game is incredibly simple for the player to understand. All they have to do is press the button, grab a bow and arrow, and when they see a target pop up down the other end, they need to shoot it. Any second now, there we go. Except I didn't shoot it. This is not going smoothly. Shoot one. No! Shoot one. Okay. And when they shoot it, they get light. If they can shoot 10 targets, they will win the game. So we're going to skip through me missing all of these targets until the final section, and I'll show you what happens then. And we should be just getting ready to hit the last one. So if I can get this, that will be 10. No! There we go, we've got 10, all the lights light up, we get a beautiful firework display. We are the champion of archery, we are the best. But it's a tutorial. So let's go and have a look at the redstone in my redstone tutorial world. And here it is. Behind me is the machine, laid bare with all of the structural and beautification blocks removed so that we can take a look around and see how it works. Let's start off at the front of the machine, seems fairly logical. This is where the player would be standing, although probably significantly further back to increase the challenge. The glass blocks here are beautification blocks. They have no bearing on the mechanism itself for the game. The red sandstone that you can see are blocks that you would be able to see in the final build, but also have some bearing on the redstone and the mechanics. So they need to be non-transparent blocks. So these ones behind here, and this one behind the button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the machine running, and then we're going to do a quick fly through of the machine, show you how it works. I'm going to keep it quite brief and explain more in the block by block if you need it. So let's push the button, and we should see the target blocks start to pop up. There we go. And then we follow this redstone line down, and we can see it comes to this memory storage unit. When this is powered, i.e. when you press the button, it will turn off this memory storage unit. That will turn off this repeater and allow this hopper clock to begin going. This hopper clock determines how frequently a target will pop up. So this is important, this mechanism is required. Then this is powering a dropper. This dropper has a selection of different blocks. Depending on how many target blocks you want, you need to have that many different types of block in here. So you can see I've got 5 red, orange, yellow, green, blue to correspond with the 5 target blocks for this version of the game. Those then get shot up into this hopper line, which is hooked up to an item sorter, just a standard item sorter, where the filters are for the different types of block that we've used. Once the blocks get sucked through this filter, they get sent back then to a dropper round the back. That automatically fires them up into this hopper and back into the dropper so they can be reused. Now, every time a item gets put into a filter, one of these redstone lines will light up. So we just saw this one light up. And what that is going to do is tell the target blocks which target block is actually the one that needs to pop up. But this only lights up for 1 or 2 ticks. So what we need is a pulse extender, and that is exactly what we've got here, which is the pink section. I decided to go with a hopper pulse extender, which is just a variation of the hopper clock. And the way you make that is to swap one of the pistons, specifically this piston, so this should be a normal piston, rather than having 2 sticky pistons as you would with a hopper clock. That allows the target block to stay up longer. So just as a recap, the first hopper clock determines how frequently a target block will pop up. This pulse extender determines how long the target block will stay raised for, therefore how much time the player has to actually try and hit the target block. The next section, the yellow section here, is going to take the signal from this pulse extender and just transfer it up to the piston so that the target block gets pushed up into the air. It's very simple. At the top, you can see the target blocks get pushed up to come in contact with these redstone lamps. If I grab a bow and arrow, you can see if I hit one of these, the redstone lamp above it will light up. That doesn't need anything fancy, that's just because the target block creates a redstone signal which powers the redstone lamp. Around the back of the targets, you've got a line of repeaters. That takes the signal from the target block and puts it into this line of redstone dust, which then powers this purpley bit round the back. This is the counter. So what we should see in here is some redstone dust or any item. We've got 8 in here. That's because I hit 2 targets just now. If I go around to the front and hit another target, we come up here. Now we've got 7. So every time you hit a target, it powers this redstone dust, which fires an item up. We start with 10, which means the player has to hit 10 targets to win the game. You can change that, obviously. They get sent into this hopper and across and down into this hopper. There's the 3 that we've hit. They are held here because of this redstone torch, which is locking this hopper and doesn't allow them to then travel round back into this dropper here. If, however, we manage to hit all 10, which we can simulate by taking this out, we can see all of this lights up, and I'll take you through how that works. So when we hit all 10, this dropper will be empty. That means this comparator will turn off, this redstone torch will turn on and light up this redstone, which actually powers 3 separate circuits. The first one round here is a short pulse extender, which unpowers this redstone torch long enough for the 10 items to drain out of this hopper and go into the dropper. If you wanted to have more items in here, you would have to make a longer pulse extender. It also powers this line across the top of the redstone lamps. That means that when the player wins the game, all of these redstone lamps are going to light up. That lets the player know that they have won. Finally, it goes into this line coming down here, which powers this memory storage unit. And if you remember, when we power the button at the beginning, we turn this off to start the game. Equally, by powering this, we stop the game by powering this redstone dust permanently, which turns off the hopper clock. And there you have it. That is a quick run through of how this is all put together. And what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into a block by block, and then we will follow that with a few variations on how you can make some of this a little bit differently if you want to vary the game. Right, so let's start this off with that hopper clock that actually determines how frequently your items are going to get pumped out, and therefore how frequently a target block will be picked. For that, you want to come up 2 blocks. That just means that we won't have to dig into the floor later. We're then going to put a comparator, a block with redstone on top, a sticky piston, facing out of this redstone dust, hoppers facing into each other, like so. We're then going to come underneath and mirror that on the other side by doing this. And then we're going to put a redstone block on there. That's your hopper clock. Now later we're going to have to add in some items. I'm not going to do that now, otherwise this is going to be running the whole time that we're creating the rest of the machine. Right, let's move on to the juicy bit, the randomizer. So the way we're going to do that is by having a block up here. This is going to get powered by this redstone dust. On the side of that, we're going to have a dropper. We're then going to come underneath here, and we're going to have another dropper diagonally and to the back of this, diagonally down into the back, with a hopper pointing into the first dropper from there. Underneath here, we're going to have a 3x3 platform with a comparator out the back, a block, a repeater, another repeater going into this dropper, and then 3 redstone dust. This is just going to take this, when this has got something in it, it will create a signal that will fire it up straight away automatically. Now we need to know how many target blocks we're actually going to want for the game. I'm just going to build a 3 target block version now, just as a demonstration. So we put a block on top of here, we come out 1, 2, 3, and another block, and we can get rid of all of these. We're going to run hoppers, so we should have 3 hoppers, and then 1 more above the dropper. These are going to be the 3 filters. Okay, now we come down 2 and in front, and we're going to build 3 along here. So now we're building the item filter, which should be pretty standard for most people, I guess, by now. We're going to put that across there. We're going to put 3 blocks under here. I'm going to come in front and put 3 blocks, because on here we want to have 3 repeaters, 3 blocks again, and cover all of this in redstone dust. Come round the back and put in your redstone repeaters. Now we're going to put redstone torches, sorry. Then we're going to take hoppers into the back of the comparators. We're going to run a hopper into the bottom of these droppers, and we're going to run hoppers into all of those hoppers running into the dropper. That will just allow the items to be recycled back once they go through the filter. The last thing that we need to do now then is to set up these filters. So to do that, I'm going to clear my inventory. I'm going to grab 3 different colors. Let's grab red, orange, and yellow. And we want to put in here, we want to fill up this dropper. So we're just going to put in 3 like this. And then we're going to put 2 of one color into each of these. So 2 red, 2 orange, and 2 yellow. The reason we put 2, by the way, is that one of those is going to get dropped down and held in here. And that just means that we don't lose any from the recycling. Now we need a different item. So I'm going to take sortie sticks. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 11 in each of these. So 10, 10, 10, 10. Spread those 4. We've got 11. You should see one of these items get sucked out, and that should now be sitting in the hopper below. That means your filter is all set. There we go. So as long as you've got, by the end of this process, 1 of your special blocks and 11 of each of these, your item sorter is all set up and ready to go. And that is your randomizer built. The next section that we're going to build is the pulse extender. And to do that, we're going to come out from here. We're going to come out 2 blocks. We're going to miss the middle one, and then we're going to come out 2 blocks. We're going to put repeaters onto each of these. And then in the middle one, we're going to put an observer, which is going to be facing into this block here with a block on there. Now on these 3 pink blocks, we want a dot of redstone. And then we're going to build up the actual extender itself. So come down to here. I'll just build up one at a time. So here we're going to put a comparator. So this is going to be very similar to the hopper clock that we built just there. We're going to put a sticky piston. We're going to put hoppers facing into each other. We're going to come across to here, another comparator. We're going to come up here and put a redstone dust. Now here's the variation. We put a normal piston, not a sticky piston, onto here. And then we put a redstone block onto there. And that is our pulse extender built up. So what we need to do now is to copy that across to these. Right, with all of that built up, I'm going to put in 3 items into each of these hoppers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you'll see that that will fire. Now the reason I'm doing 3 is because in my experimentation, that's how many I decided was needed for these target blocks to stay up a decent length of time. Now if you were going to do more target blocks, this is very easy to extend. It's just tileable like this. This is also tileable, except that you obviously need to make sure that your next row, so say you're going to build another target block row along here, you would need to make sure the next one is upwards like this. So it's one of the upwards ones rather than the lower ones. You can't tile them directly next to each other. Okay, let's build on to hooking up the pistons and the target blocks themselves. So to hook up the pistons and the target blocks couldn't be much simpler. For the lower ones, we're just going to build a little staircase coming up here. I'm going to put a sticky piston on top with a target block on top of that, a repeater, and a redstone dust. That's it. So let's build up this side. Not even going to build it off camera because it's so quick. There we go. Then for the top one, we just have 2 blocks like this, a repeater, and redstone dust, and then you'll see that this is actually going to connect up. So what we need to do is put a block and a block. That just makes sure that these aren't going to power side to side. We need to put in our sticky piston there and our target block, and we're done. Now it's time to hook up the section that's actually going to count for the player to see when they've won. So for that, we're going to have blocks here. These will be visible, so make sure they are in fitting with the theme of your build. We're going to have repeaters across the top, and then we're going to have 3 blocks and, oh, didn't pick up any redstone dust, and some redstone dust. Okay, so again, these are going to be visible. Make sure that they fit in with your palette. And it doesn't matter if you've got 9 target blocks, you can still use the same system because it's going to come all the way across. What does matter is you're going to have to make sure that on the third of these, so behind the third target block, is where you have this magenta or whatever you're using and a redstone dust to go into the dropper. So this is going to be the counting mechanism. It needs to be on the third one, otherwise all of the measurements on this side aren't going to line up. Okay, so we've got our dropper in place. We're then going to put a round of hoppers coming all the way around like this. So if you imagine that you're an item, you're going to hop up into here, round the hopper, down, around, and back into the dropper. But we need to make sure that doesn't happen all the time. So we're going to put a comparator coming out the side here. We're going to put a block with a redstone torch. And we're going to come out 2 like this. And there's a redstone line. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a block on top of here. This is going to be our pulse extender, which is going to go like this. And on the side of this block, we want our redstone torch, which is going to lock this hopper. So now, if we put 10 items into here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we should see, good, this comparator is on, this redstone torch is off. That means this redstone torch is on. They're going to get held in here. If we take those out, we should see this light up. Great, so that little circuit is working. Okay, now we're going to want to hook up the redstone lamps. We're going to come up 2 here, so when the target is popped up, it will actually hit this. And then we're just going to build along the side of this until we meet here. Redstone line coming across. You'll see here it links up. So here we're going to want to put in a repeater and run it across the top. That's your redstone indicator, so the player knows when they've won. What we're going to do next is just put a couple of blocks here. We're going, sorry, that should be a repeater, and then a redstone. We're going to come back to this in a second, because what we're going to do now is to do the on-off switch, and that will hook up to this, which will be the reset. So to build the on-off/reset switch, we are going to put a block here with a repeater on top. We're then going to put a block up here. We're going to build out a little platform like so. So you should have space here for a comparator to go into each of these raised blocks. Redstone dust on each side of here, and a redstone dust on top. That redstone dust is on top because that's actually going to hook up to this reset line. So this is where this comes down now. Then onto the side of this, we need to put our reset. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to have a block, we're going to have a redstone dust, a block, and another block here with a repeater running into here. That just makes sure this has got enough power to definitely turn this off. Put that onto subtract mode. Now we're going to run this line all the way down, and what you're going to want to do now is determine where your player is going to stand, or more precisely, where you want your player to be able to start the game from. I would recommend it's next to where they stand. So let's say we're going to go all the way back to somewhere around here, let's say. That looks like a decent distance. Okay, so we want our button to be somewhere around here. So on here, we're going to put a red sandstone or whatever block you're using for your structural side of things. And onto that, we're going to put a button. Probably should have got all these ready. And then coming down, we're going to go down 1, 2, and 3. And now if you run this line across, it should meet where we were just building. Bingo. Get rid of these blocks. That was just for measuring. And now we just need to run a redstone line from the back of this block to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Remembering, after 15, we need a repeater. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so this can actually be any length that you want it to be. Just depends how far away you want the player to be standing. Obviously, the further away, the bigger the challenge. And that is the whole game. It's all built up. Let's push the button, make sure that it works. No, it's not going to work because I've forgotten something very important. I haven't put any items in here because I didn't want it running. So what we're going to do, we're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items and plonk them in here. The number of items you put in there will determine how frequently a target block is selected. So you need to make sure you've got more items in the hopper clock than you do in any of these pulse extenders. Otherwise, you're going to have several being selected at the same time. But not so many that you're waiting too long between these popping up. So I found that 5 and 3 was a pretty good balance for this simple game. Well, there you go. So now we've built it up, block by block, exactly how I built it before. Let's look at a couple of variations that you can do to turn this into slightly different games. So the thing that's going to have to remain the same is that you're going to have a randomizer. So what I did is I just added a couple more lines to this hopper sorter so that we could have a couple more blocks. But after that, you've actually got a little bit of room to play around. So what we could do, for example, is take a signal from here, stick it into a block, and we can take that signal wherever we want to take it then. So one way that you can do that is to take glass, for example, and then we can just build a glass tower. So this would mean that you could actually take this signal straight up. And once it's at the top, you could put in a different kind of pulse extender. You're still going to need a pulse extender, of course, but it doesn't have to be the same one that I used there. We could, for example, use a simple comparator pulse extender like we've got just down here. So if we do this, you will probably want to put a repeater in there. So then we've got a pulse extender here. And then we can just put our piston coming, let's say, forwards like this. That's not going to be very useful. Let's do it out to the side. So we can have that come out to the side like this with our target block on here. And then we need to make sure that that's then going to feed into this same line. So bearing in mind, we want it when this is extended. We come underneath here, put a redstone on top, and then we can just simply run this line down. Hang on, got that a bit wrong. Then we can just simply run this line down and into that same counting mechanism. So now we've got a target that's in a completely different place. We've got a target that's all the way up there. And you could imagine that you could then build a little bit of a facade on here. So let's just build a very simple little frame. You're going to make sure that that redstone line is not blocked, of course. But you could build something just to hide that. Okay. If you really wanted to make sure that you could hide that, you could also come at the back here and come around the side, of course. Right, so then you've got something like that, and then the target block itself is going to jump out into here to be hit. You could also do it so that you have again, you could have an observer coming out. Now, you won't be able to put this next to this, so you could have that coming out the front like this, and with your block on top of here. And then you could do something like a much more spaghetti-like line that brings it a lot further forward, for example. So you could have that coming all the way out to here, and then maybe you could have one coming, a target coming down. And if you're going to do that, then your detector is going to have to be one lower than that here, and then this line is going to have to run into here. So we can run that into the side like this, right? And all you need to do is make sure that you haven't got more than 15. So you might do something like that. That's just going to keep the signal going. And there you go. And it doesn't matter if the signal bleeds back up these lines. It doesn't make any difference. So then you can imagine you could build up a little village scene, and then you could easily have target blocks coming from all around you. You could even be standing in the middle, and you could be shooting all around. You don't even have to bring this out the front. Using this technique, you could bring these up all the way, and then you could have buildings around you. I'm not going to build something like that today. I'm just going to leave that to your imagination. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you get some ideas, and I would love to see anybody's creations that they managed to make using this. I'd also love to hear any comments that you have about how I can improve these tutorials. This is the second one I've done now. I'm aware that they're probably not the slickest, and I would welcome any constructive feedback. Also, of course, welcome any likes, any subscriptions, and any features on Hermitcraft. Hee hee, cheeky, bye!